Okay, we begin another incredible week. B'siyata d'shmaya. I know it's Tuesday due to legal holidays, but Amir Hashem, we continue learning a little bit about tefillah each and every day. And where are we up to? We're up to learning about pigia, relentlessly entreating, relentless pushing. We said it like that child. He pushes and he pushes and he asks and he pleads. And what does the father, what does the mother eventually do? They give in. And we mentioned last time a caveat, a warning, a disclaimer, and we have to focus in on that again. And that is we have to be careful. We have to be careful. What do you have to be careful with? Whoever listened to the last year feels like this is the greatest tool in the book. Maybe we should just learn this chapter and nothing else. Then what do you have to be careful with? This is incredible. You want something? Bombard away, and eventually you'll get there. So in order to explain why we have to be careful, let's first explain what does it really mean to relentlessly entreat for one item. And Rav Pincus proves this from a Gemara in Tainis. And the Gemara in Tainis teaches us as follows. Gemara in Tainis says, and Daf Chesam and Aleph, B'mei Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani have kafna umasna. In the days of Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, there was a famine. There was a famine and there was a lack of rain. So there was a dual issue going on. And explains the Gemara, it was a Rav and a Dever. Explains, not a famine and a drought, it was a famine and a plague. And the Gemara says, what should we do? Should we daven for both? Loi efshar. It's not possible. We can't daven for both. So they were trying to figure out what should we do. And the Gemara concludes, and the Gemara says, you should daven for one, because whenever Hashem gives satiation, He does it to the living. So if He's going to give food, invariably together with that, the plague will have to stop. End of the Gemara. So Rav Shimshon Pincus wonders, says, I don't understand. You daven Shemona Esrei today? How many bakashas are there in Shemona Esrei? A ton. A lot more than two. So what does the Gemara mean when the Gemara says that we can't daven for more than one thing? Explains Rav Shimshon Pincus, let's go into the analogy of a milchama, of a war. When you have a war, you have an enemy, you have a target. What do? Do you focus in on that target and another target and another target? Of course not. You have one target, you zero in, and you bombard that target. That's how you fight the war. And he learns this from Avram Avinu, in which tefillah is equated to milchama. Explains Rav Shimshon Pincus, if you focus on too many things, you're not going to hit the target. If you want to utilize this methodology of tefillah of pigia, it has to be for one thing and one thing only. And then, if you zoom in, you zero in, and you fire, and you fire, and you ask, and you plead, relentlessly never giving up for one thing, then that is this form of tefillah. And that is the way that we'll find some tzaddikim, some gedolim, that they'll daven for a certain entity, and then it will come true. So that's the methodology, how to utilize this form of tefillah, which as you're listening right now, is not as simple as saying to Hashem every day, I want parnasa, and I want good health, and I want my children to be successful. No, that's not this pigia. That's not this relentless asking. Relentless asking is you have one thing in your life, and you're asking for that one thing. And at times, the truth is, that's really all you want. When someone maybe needs a shidduch, they'll honestly say, you know what, Hashem? I don't need parnasa. I don't need this. All I need is that. And if you think about it, that's when our loving Father answers. So that's the way that this is utilized in tefillah, is forgetting about everything else. Of course, you still say Shemona Esrei. Of course, you still daven, but what's the thing you're focusing on? That's number one. But number two, says Rav Shimshon Pincus, and this is really ice bays in this chapter, that you have to be really careful. We learned this from a different Gemara in Tainis that talks about Chayni Amagel, which Chayni Amagel is told by Hashem, if you were not Chayni, I would put you in Shearim. Because how can you daven the way you daven? Chayni Amagel put himself in a circle, and he turned to Hashem and he said, I'm not leaving until you give rain. That's pigia. That's almost kaviyachol, pushing Hashem up against the corner and making him kaviyachol give us what we need. So we're going to pick up from this point, but we'll conclude with the following thought. Hashem knows better than you do. And if Hashem felt that you shouldn't have parnasa, and you relentlessly ask for parnasa, You think it's best for you, but maybe your loving Father knows better. And that's the Pesach, that's the first opening why this is a type of tefillah we have to be really careful with. And rather, we should try to more daven in a more of a broad way. We'll pick up from this detail and explain this a little bit more tomorrow. B'siyata.